Get ready for this. And then we change this when we go over here. Just switch to. Hey, we are here. We are here. We are here. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has. It's been a very long while. And, you know, at least we are in a better state than we were last week, this time after that storm
Yes.
that hit and knocked out
Uh,
our
All the
power
power.
and our internet and our everything for a minute.
And folks could not also see us too at the same time. We were
Exactly.
doing a
Even
whole bunch of
before that.
recording. Yeah, we're
Yes.
doing a whole bunch of recordings. We know that this very unique and diverse um how can I say it,
Opportunity,
live streaming
experience. Yes.
opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a little break, a hiatus, if somebody was
Hiatus.
not
Yeah.
hiatus, not what they wanted to, but it
Right.
was just that way. Now we're back on. Our program's back on. We're glad to be back on live too again,
Absolutely.
and we hope we still have some of our folks that used to watch us coming back again. We love that too at the same time. And what else?
And wow, it's just good to be back. It seems like it was a long, long time, but we've weathered the storms, you know,
Hmm.
literally and figuratively, and
Hmm.
and that's a good thing. But sometimes that makes you stronger, makes you better.
Hmm.
And coming back, we are looking at having a different format in which we would like to have guests on. People, other people from our Black media, as well as couples who are working towards having a thriving relationship or who
Hmm.
are actually in the process of experiencing and living a um, a thriving relationship. And if that happens to be you, feel free to contact us and um, so we can talk about you being a guest on our show and share in the conversation with us on whatever topic we're talking about at that on that particular day. Um, so that's where we are. When you go off, sometimes you have time to think and plan and do things a little bit differently, and that's where we are now. I think we have a
You know what I thought you was getting ready to say, by
what's
the
that?
way? I thought you were saying, I'm glad to be black. You
Oh, I
said, I'm glad to
am.
be, you said, I'm glad to be back. I thought you was getting ready to say, I'm glad to be black.
I'm
And so
glad
that
to
is,
be black and back.
okay.
So
All right. Figure of speech.
yes, let's cover both
You, 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 you
avenues.
know, they say race is just a what?
Construct.
A construct. Yeah, it was
Yes.
constructed by other folks.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Just
but you know,
something
our
that was
experience that we have through our culture, how we wear or what we wear, how we talk, in the tone, the inflection, how we look physically, how we
yes.
look at people too,
Mhm.
and our stories that we have, whether in this country, good and bad, mostly not bad, but good. That's
Mhm.
why you got to make sure this history continues on, and we make sure people let our history continue on. But there's also too that other end that has to do with what who we were because we were enslaved before our
Mm-hmm.
time on Mother
Yes.
Africa. And others say in this area where the Moors had a lot of their time and existence here. So from that standpoint of view, then we can be glad of our culture. And
Yes.
together we put our culture together and we use the construct, even though it was given to us, that idea that we're black, the color black, or the construct of being black, huh?
Exactly. So it's one of those wonderful things because it is a rich culture that's
Mm.
connected to it. Oh, and by the way,
What's that? Say it loud. I'm black and I'm brown.
absolutely,
That's what who said that?
James Brown.
James Brown.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
It might not be politically correct now to say that, huh?
oh, who cares?
Mm.
Um, I'm sorry. Politically correctness
Mm-hmm.
is, uh, yeah, it's just a bunch of. I'm not even going to go there.
Hooey.
That's it. A
Is
bunch
that
of hooey.
that's the
Yeah.
word you wanted to use?
um,
Okay.
but you are Imar,
Mm-hmm.
and I am Zare,
You are.
and we are taking the journey together.
Yes.
And our motto is we are going to relate. It doesn't matter what your mother, father, sister, brother, even what Jesus says.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to relate. But we like to instill in people the idea of relating in a balanced manner.
A balanced man. Okay.
Exactly. And that balanced manner means that you don't have to do the old time thing of deciding whether you're going to be in a long term relationship with your friend or your lover,
Mm-hmm.
because you start to cultivate that relationship with your friend and grow it into a lover relationship. And then you make sure that you are in a long term relationship with your friend and your lover.
And friendship is such a hard thing to build today, especially our cultural
Hmm.
background, where because of our culture that went through the filtering in this country
Yes.
of racism through being enslaved, caused us a lot coming over here where we didn't come as a family, we didn't come as a couple, and therefore the coupling that came was sometimes very much within
Hmm.
same person units, even though they weren't
Yes.
family blood wise, or it came from breeding that
Hmm.
happened a lot through enslavedness. And then, of course, from there, the system itself
Yes.
decided and did as it did, made us nothing but mostly what items to be sold in
Yeah.
so many words.
But in addition to that,
Mm-hmm.
it created relationships of turmoil
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
and and that stress and that anger and that
Mm-hmm.
um
Cause that dividing
uh,
and conquer.
caused the
Willie Lynch
divide and
syndrome.
conquer, caused the lack of trust because
Mm-hmm.
nobody could be consistent. There was no guarantee that the relationships that were formed
Mm-hmm.
were going to be able to stay together.
Exactly.
And
You still see that today,
yeah, so
and that power play that are in relationships,
mhm,
our cultural relationships,
mhm,
especially when you see that moved from the stereotypical setup where males were only working all the time, and therefore they felt of their independence, even though black men didn't have that at the beginning, but they later on, sometime and historically wise, they did get that kind of independence. The job, I didn't say freedom, I just said independence to a certain
yeah,
extent.
yeah.
And then, of course, the female and the black.
For some people, freedom is a construct too.
Exactly. And then females, black females, got the right to be able to vote, and they got the freedom of being to work and being independent and on their own. And what has happened is it has caused a lot of that infighting, in that a lack of real unity, the
Hmm.
lack of real togetherness, just because of how the system
Yes.
has put that kind of undue pressure on our relationship. And so a culture many times doesn't have enough ideal relationships between male and female, and has a lot of single parent families where a lot of single parent mothers have raised children. Like I came out of a single parent family, and in turn, we still have a lot of the results of those who came out of single parent families. And then we also have, at the same time, still the not actually representation a lot of the families that did stay together and
Right.
the families that
Right.
are still together now, and the byproducts or their stories of so many words of how they made it and how they're still doing. We don't get to see enough of those visions. We don't get to see enough of those images. We don't get
Mhm.
to see enough of those realities, which can create dreams in hopes and possibilities for the next relationship or the next couples or the next families who want to create their own story. So taking the journey is all about trying to build that possibility,
Mhm.
and bringing hopefully in some elements and pieces and ideas and some of our testimonies to going to help you, rebuild or to
Yes.
expand,
Yes.
or to make better a relationship, as we see some of our young people trying to do that through partnership. And so friendship is very, very important as a
Mhm.
basis. And many times in a relationship, you don't go in with the experience of being a friend
Right.
whatsoever, but you can build that friendship. I know you talked that a lot as we've been doing this, taking the journey, kind of reminded me that, hey, I may not have went in so much as being an experienced friend, though I wanted to be a
Mhm.
friend, but not so much of experienced friend,
Yeah.
not as much experience as you have and what you've been looking at and what you've been actually engrossing yourself in
Mhm.
from that end. But yet it is and can be something that is learned, something that in turn it can be part of a passion and can be part of what I think is a strong love for someone else.
And the other thing too is, you want to be in a relationship with your friend, and that's something that I've always strived for. But one of the things I have found that sometimes what friendship is and how a friendship works was not the same as the
Mm-hmm.
person I was trying to be in friendship
Exactly.
with.
I'm gonna turn your
You
mic
know.
just a little bit so we hear your
Okay.
pretty voice, your beautiful voice. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you also have to build upon as you're building that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
is understanding what each other's ideas of friendship and how a friendship works.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be taken into consideration.
And how can that be learned if we say and believe friendship is based on love? What is one of the first things that we talked about in our last couple of lessons or elements that you can learn to be able to make that connection? What's it called?
Hot.
That's a good structure,
Hot
no doubt
is the
about it.
foundation
But
to.
that's a structure that you
Yes.
use to be able to communicate between the two. But to learn what is that individual's love explanation or
Hmm.
understanding or
Yeah.
definition, as you say,
Yeah.
you have to begin to find out their what.
Their love language, and they
Exactly.
also have to understand what their love language is.
Well,
Yeah.
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 That's a
Because
no-brainer.
and the reason I say that is
Mm-hmm.
because you find that people today have a better understanding of love language, young people,
Mm-hmm.
because they have exposure to a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
People,
Like you
yeah,
didn't know much about love language. Yeah.
exactly. And that's what I was just getting ready to say. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people our age have no idea what love language is,
You know,
or
unless you
they
was
they
not
had
like me, was
or
looking to it a long
they
time
had
ago.
no idea at a younger age, at a much
Yeah.
younger age. When they were getting into
Mm-hmm.
relationships, they didn't know because the information wasn't there.
I always figured that to a certain extent. Now that's not true. I always thought that everybody loved pretty much the same thing when it
Hmm.
came to empathy and compassion, not
Yes.
knowing that that was not necessarily true. I remember a lady friend of mine from way, way back. She became a very well-known model, and it was in high school time. Just loved me to death. I was scared of her too, but she was a very beautiful woman, and she would, we were friends. We were close friends. Her
Hmm.
name is Kathy Anderson. I'm just gonna say it anyway. She may hear it, she may not. I don't know. But I remember she sat down one time. We were late at night. We are talking to one another. She said, "Craig, not everybody thinks and believes and looks at life and connection the same way you
Exactly.
do. And
Exactly.
you need to understand." I had a hard time believing that because most of the guys I hung around with, my boys, my homies, and some of the women knew they seem to have something in common, some basis, core things in common. Not
Hmm.
everything, but a lot of core things in common. And she was trying to tell me even those core things were not necessarily as deep in as strong
Yeah.
as you do,
Yeah.
or could they actually, how can I say it, articulate it,
Hmm.
that this is what they're
Yeah.
feeling, this was what was behind it, but
And
you could do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's part of the issue also.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have difficulty articulating what it is they're trying, what they're really, the point they're really trying to get across to you, like
Mm-hmm.
I am right now. And then
Hmm.
and other times, sometimes the one that you're articulating to have trouble hearing that you're feeling similar to what they are,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a little bit different. And if it's anything that veers away from their idea of what they have,
Mm-hmm.
then it's difficult for them to hear you,
Mm-hmm.
and to that extent tend to cut you off and um um sort of demean your idea
Mm-hmm.
or how you're
Or
looking at
ghost you.
things.
Sometimes it just
Yeah,
ghosts you
yeah,
from that end.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But and sometimes it's better to even, you feel better being ghosted than dismissed,
No, well,
or your
I don't.
or your conversation
I
being
don't. I figure
dismissed.
you should have. That's why we think differently.
Yeah.
Because my idea is that you should have the honor of yourself and respect of the other person
Mhm.
like yourself, since you're in that kind of conversation, if you're in that kind of lane of relating in the first place,
Mhm.
and that opening is up, since we're talking about love, and that could be a term
Right.
of conversation,
Right.
or it could be politics or other thing, then you would at least have that kind of respect and honor to say, hey, I ain't feeling this, I ain't thinking this, yada yada, move on. But
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily
And
happen today.
yeah.
It's even more people who just will
Mhm.
ghost you.
Yeah.
Period.
And
Back in
and
that
and
day, it was necessarily like,
yeah.
kiss my ass, or say
Yeah.
some other choice words
Yeah.
from that end. But today, people just like ghost you and think nothing
Yeah.
about it.
And I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with you on that. And from my standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I have had people dismiss what I'm saying, hear part of it, realize that it's not exactly what they're thinking or feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and cut me off, or turn around and tell me what I'm thinking, which is completely wrong, because they
Mm-hmm.
haven't heard the whole thing. And that has happened to me so many times that, rather than disregarding what I say, sometimes I would just as soon be ghosted, because you're not listening to me anyway.
Yeah, you're kind of like that too. You ghost me many times too, babe. But anyway,
I don't ghost you.
yeah,
I
you
just
do.
shut down for the moment.
Be a moment, my butt. But anyway, it's not long. You do the day clean thing in the
I definitely do.
morning,
And I do that.
and then still forget what happened the day before, like it was brand new.
And sometimes I have to do that. And one of the reasons I have to do that is because when I used to hang on to things, I got
Mm.
sick.
I think also too, this is that next thing, because we're talking about love language at the
Mhm.
beginning when we
Yeah.
move on, has to do with knowing yourself
Mhm.
and knowing some things conscious about
Yeah.
yourself, and then being able to articulate what they are, which
Yeah.
brings knowledge. And as you know, the truth will set you free.
Mhm.
Knowledge and
Yeah.
understanding the details of that knowledge will then set yourself free,
Yes.
because you got a better understanding, you got a better clarity of it, and
Mhm.
you're able to hopefully translate or communicate to someone else. And when that happens, hopefully, then you move in what you just were talking about. If that happens when you kind of shut down, because we know that we'll talk about it one day, one of the apocalypse horses, if you may want to say, of
Mhm.
a relationship. And sure enough, the relationship is going to hell. On this case, it's just not going to make it.
Right.
One of them is non-communication and shutting
Right.
down. It
Right.
really is one of them too.
Yeah.
So there's one that we're going to be talking about today. It's right up there, that can help move you out of those circles, because
Mhm.
not everybody's perfect.
Right.
Everybody does things that are making other people
Or
feel comfortable.
better than that, not anyone is
It-
perfect.
a good one. And so when that happens, instead of just shutting down,
Mhm.
instead of this going into your own self
Yeah.
or getting mad and angry, as sometimes I will do, and
Mhm.
some of your brothers out there watching, what I'm talking about. That angry brother thing wasn't coined and that's for nothing. Or as Brother Jamal said, some myths have what? And some what else?
Um
Fables.
yeah.
They have truth.
There's some truth in all of them. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
So
and that's one
mhm.
of the reasons why I do that shutdown, is because I do know that
you,
my
you you
that
you
I
don't, you
can,
don't have to defend
no,
yourself.
no,
You
no,
really don't.
no, I'm not defending myself.
Really, you don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's because that's not what this is all about from that particular. Just like I'm not going to
But
defend myself
it's connected
about
to
my
that
anger
though.
too at the same
Yeah.
time. We want to go into this instead of continue on in our conversation. We
Mhm.
want to go on to this so we can give some information, some meat
Yes.
out. We'll go
Yes.
back like we usually do. We ain't changed, y'all who are watching, we're
No.
listening. We're being as authentic as we always are and probably always will. To the death do she part, no, us parts, no, whoever. And
Why me?
okay, me then. Uh, but we're talking about apologies. So
Yes.
apologies are in the same
Mhm.
frame
Yeah.
or the same spirit of bridge statements,
Right.
where bridge statements would be what you would
Hmm.
use if you're trying to, in term, speak apology. How's
Exactly.
that? Or
And
I'm sorry.
yeah, and that's one of those things that you have to work on. You have to work on the bridge statements,
Hmm.
because I know with me, it's easier for me to shut down than to have a bridge statement, which is really not a good thing.
Well, that's because, as you know, before you didn't know much about bridge
Oh
statements.
no, I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
no.
it's like, why?
And
If I don't know about love language, why would I
yeah,
know about bridge
and
statements?
in past relationships,
Hmm.
um bridge statements were not necessary.
Hmm.
And the reason they weren't necessary is because the communication wasn't there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I am too.
Okay, so there are five types of sorries and
Yes.
apologies. Sorries and apologies are both the same. Okay,
Hmm.
we're going to talk about that more. Sorries or apologies. Sorry is probably more the spirit of it. Apology is something that you actually speak or action or do. So there are
Yeah.
five types. Well, you're looking up for what's going on.
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, five types of sorries and apologies.
Yes.
We're going to go through five of them, but I bet you most of us didn't know that there are five types of apologies or ways you can say sorry on this particular case.
Types.
Types in the first
Yeah.
place. I bet you didn't even know. Most of us don't even get to one. But
I didn't know.
I know, I'm going to start with one that has to do with a book that I wrote about relationships. I'm going to show it up here. Where's our camera? There it is. It's
Taking the journey relations.
exactly wrote this years ago about relationship with the help of this beautiful woman next door to me. Um,
All I did was help publish it.
yeah, well, she
That's it.
did a heck of a job of helping with it. Had someone else who came up with the cover too at the same time, and it's all about relationships. Actually, it's more from what I look at it, a journal or a way to have therapy.
And that's, and that's what writing is a lot of time.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's therapy.
It's not thick.
Yeah,
It's only
it's
13.95. So we want to show you and give some information where you can come and we'll make sure you get it signed to at the same time. I think it would be, in fact, I know it would be very helpful to some who out there, especially some of the brothers out there who may want to and have what they call emotional what intelligence. They're not
intelligence.
afraid to speak how they feel. They don't think that it's being less of a man. In fact, they think it's more of being a man
It
because they're not
is.
afraid to be able to speak up. And they have women in their life who are not afraid, or how can I say it, uncomfortable to let you
Hmm.
speak about it only when they feel that you should be able to speak about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So where's the poem that I have? I wrote about this when it comes to the arena of sorry.
Well, it is coming
I
right up.
thought she had it on the page.
She did until somebody
Well,
moved
you
it.
should. Oh, there it is.
See, I know
Okay.
exactly where it is.
Oh well. I'm sorry. See, I'm quick to say I'm sorry. Anyway, this is a poem that I wrote from my many experiences of dealing with people who basically said they were sorry.
Hmm.
In many of my relationships, people said they were sorry, and and over time of listening, and over time even maybe me even saying it, it just didn't seem right. It just didn't feel right, and I know now because of the fact that really there are five types of sorries or sorrows or apologies to say, and
Hmm.
so when we hear just one all the time, you get a distinct feeling in your gut, in your spirit, in your soul that something just not right about this one,
Yes.
not knowing that's because there are many others that
Hmm.
could be and should be used. And that one that you heard really was not the right one.
Right.
So let me read it. When you are really sorry, do you have feelings of being remorseful? When you say you are really sorry, are you sympathetic? Do you show pity or compassion? When you say you are sorry, do you have a feeling of deep regret? Can you feel their pain? When you say you are really sorry, do you ever cry? When you say you are really sorry, is it associated with the sadness of doing something wrong? When you say you are sorry, it's associated to something disappointment or disagreement. When you say you're sorry, are you willing to reconcile or make up? When you say you are sorry, are you willing to find a way in which two situations or beliefs that are opposite to each other are in an agreement? When you say you are really sorry, are you willing to become friendly with someone after you argue with them? Many times, no.
No.
When you say you're sorry, are you willing to disagree without being disagreeable? Oh man, have you not heard that many times?
Too many.
Yeah, and don't really happen. When you say you are sorry, are you willing to reconcile yourself to something unpleasant? Mm, probably not. When you say you are really sorry, are you willing to accept it, although you do not like it? When you say you are sorry, are you willing to go through the process of making two people or groups or of people friendly again after they have argued? Hey, when you say you are sorry, are you really sorry? Are you really?
And for most people, that is a not really, or it is a somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but every now and then, um, when you get to the point and you say, I'm sorry, you are really experiencing the first type of sorry that we're going to talk about. And that is remorse sorry, where you give a remorse apology.
Yes.
And, and if you're not sure what remorse is, it's when you regret strongly um, what has happened or what you have done to or against someone.
Yes. Express regret, sorrow for something you did,
Hmm.
you said, caused
Yeah.
hurt
Yeah.
or harm to another person. And I
Hmm.
think that is probably why that poem was written, because a lot of those who were with me, women I've dated, guys I knew and grew up, they said they were sorry, but I knew there was no regret behind it.
Yeah.
I knew there was no real empathy behind it.
Hmm.
And because of that, you could feel the hurt.
Yes.
You could feel the pain.
Hmm.
And that's why I knew it was not real sorry
Yes. Yes.
from that end.
Or when somebody hurts you and
Hmm.
then instead of apologizing, they give you this sideways apology saying, "Well, I'm sorry it happened, but if you hadn't done
Hmm.
this, that, or the other," it's like, but then you're really not sorry because you're saying it's my fault in the first place.
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself too,
Okay, I'm
because
sorry.
that's all right. Because there is another type of sorry that fits in.
Oh, okay, but what I'm saying is
You,
that's not
no,
remorse.
no, it's not remorse.
Yeah,
No, no, it's not a
yeah.
remorse. No, 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 it's not a remorse apology at all.
Hmm.
A remorse apology, as we talked about before, it involves acknowledging your responsibility for your action,
Yes.
showing empathy and I'll start again. Showing empathy,
Hmm.
not just compassion,
Yeah.
empathy, where I maybe have been through this before, felt the same kind of pain, felt the
Yes.
same kind of feeling. And so, therefore, I can feel you on this.
Hmm. Yeah.
And because of that, my sorry, which is empathy sorry, has everything to do with why I'm presenting it to you, because I
Yes.
feel your pain. I
Yes.
feel what you went through, and I'm the one who caused it.
Hmm. Yes.
So showing empathy and understanding for the other person's feeling and making a sincere effort to make things right.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where the bridge statement comes in.
Hmm.
When you take all of that into consideration as you voice your apology, you say, I know what I did was wrong. I know what I did hurt you. I can do that real well here in the heat of the moment. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but you still got to learn to be able to do that regardless.
And we got someone here, Bernard White. Thank you for stepping in, Bernard. And he says, what?
I try not to do things to make me say I'm sorry. Me too. I don't do very well at it.
Well, no
But
one's perfect.
yeah, exactly.
And especially when it's an area of you not
Mhm.
knowing
Yeah.
about it. And there is a type of sorry that covers that we'll
Yeah.
be talking about,
Yeah.
that covers the area of what you want to say ignorance or being naive from
Mhm.
that particular end.
Yes.
The remorse apology doesn't really cover that.
Right.
You
No, it
know it.
doesn't. It does
Oh
not.
no, you know it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know it from that end,
Mhm.
especially if it's something that you went through before.
Right.
So
Right.
you definitely know it from that end. As for trying not to, most of us try not to in
Yeah.
relationships, but there's no such thing as perfect
Yes.
whatsoever. That's why apologies and sorrows, or being sorry for
Mhm.
something, has everything to do with the existence that we have when it comes to
Yes.
relationship, because that's part of life. We're
Mhm.
not going to be perfect. We don't don't even have a relationship, that we both operate exactly the same as
Right.
one person anyway. Unity is all about understanding that your relationship is about interdependence, which
Mhm.
is what you can do with someone else that you really can't just do by
By
yourself
yourself.
from that end.
Yes.
And now we're not just talking about having kids either. But anyway,
Yeah. Because
talking
now
about,
you can do that.
oh,
But
yeah, I
yeah.
forgot. Artificial insemination.
Uh-huh.
Shoot, I think one day they'll have a male to be able to have a baby. Remember they tried with this one guy? Trans might
Yeah.
be trying it, but no, there was another guy they tried. Anyway, we won't even talk
Anyway,
about that.
no,
We
we're
won't
not
talk
even
about
going
that.
down that
No,
road.
no,
But
no.
what I wanted to say to
Mm-hmm.
Mr. White was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we try very hard. Nobody wants to really hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we miss the cues that we're given. Whereas yesterday, saying, you know, or not saying anything about her hair or whatever was not a big deal. But today, there was this sense of, I don't feel right about myself. And you not saying anything
So
is the thing that
you talk
messes
you're
everything
talking
up.
about from a woman's point.
Well, I
One
am a
point,
woman.
yeah. So
So,
you're talking,
yeah.
duh. And sometimes that's a
Yeah.
misnomer
I
because
mean,
we're not
so
talking about you physically. It's sometimes
I know.
how that personality could be
Exactly.
more
And
male
that's,
energy from that
yeah.
particular and losing that balance. But
Yeah. But
anyway,
what I'm
I,
saying is,
I get your point that you're
yeah.
talking from a male's point of view because he's probably talking from a female's point of view because
Yeah.
he wants to
Yeah.
know because he's interfacing with another
Hmm.
particular female.
But,
Hopefully, he is.
exactly. But what I'm saying is that sometimes, it's, you have to watch those cues because
Mm-hmm.
it may not, even no matter how hard we try, sometimes we just miss the
That
point.
that be you
Yeah.
speaking for yourself too. I
Oh,
definitely. Yeah,
yes.
but
If
but
I,
even if you do miss those points, understanding that there's five different type of
hmm
apologies can help you in the matter of a bridge statement and give you
exactly.
more clarity to set yourself free so you don't operate in one of the worst things you can operate, which is called self-guilt. And
Yes.
self-guilt
Yes.
can dangerously um chip away at your self-esteem
Hmm.
unless you're just purely prideful
Right.
and
Right.
based on grandiose ideas and concepts, then it don't
Hmm.
really make a difference anyway.
Or you're extremely
You're everybody's going to
narcissistic.
hate me. You're trumping yourself out from that end. But otherwise,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have some sense of yourself and love for yourself,
Hmm.
understanding that idea of compassion. Then
Hmm.
yeah, you're going to try to operate if that happens that bad because it does happen, and we all make those failures from that end. Okay,
Absolutely.
so we're going
Absolutely.
to a commercial. Our engineer's back there. I'm gonna throw. Hey, Mr. Engineer, can I go ahead and throw a commercial up? He don't care. He's doing something. Look, he waved his hand, so I'm gonna do it. We're going to commercial, and then we're going to come right back.
with my baby on the line. Just the other night, we had a horrible fight. I admit that I was out of control, but I still love my man with my body and soul. When the road gets rough, you say things you should not say. I never meant to treat my baby that way. I apologize. Believe me. Oh, believe me, I do. I apologize. Honest and true. Because I know I was wrong. And so I sing you
Okay,
this
okay.
song. And I'm trying to get through.
All right. You
Make
are
it up
listening
to
to who is
you,
that, Sharon?
yeah.
Anita Baker. All right. So
Operator,
what's she talking about
it
there?
was like a bad dream. Something went wrong. She was admitting that it was her role in that thing going wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and saying I apologize. That would be remorse apology.
Yeah, the way she sounded, you could tell by the
Yes.
tone of voice.
Yes.
She was like, for
She
most
very
brothers, she
regretful.
was the only sister we knew in our day and time that would actually openly sue public and her music to actually apologize. We say
Yeah.
to her brother, many brothers are like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, I wish I had a sister like that could apologize," because it seemed
Yeah.
like anything she does or says, she ain't never done nothing wrong. Shoot, some of us grew with moms that figured she ain't never did nothing wrong, never will do anything.
Yeah.
And if I did, I still was wrong thinking that she did something wrong.
Yeah.
So Anita Baker was one of those sisters that definitely presented us the idea of apologies
Yeah.
and sorries, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. And it was a remorse one. You tell.
Yes, and that was one of those songs that often hit home, and
Mm-hmm.
you were like, wow, if somebody said that to me, I would forgive them and wouldn't think twice about it,
Mm.
no matter what.
I think on that note, many angry, upset, had bad experiences in the past, hurtful and broken, and I'm using all those words.
Mm-hmm.
Black males, especially, including me, if we would have got that kind of apology, heartfelt apology, that I think it would have softened a lot of our heart, softened a lot of our anger,
Yeah.
and gave us a lot of that needed compassion that maybe in life did not present to us.
Mm-hmm.
That some people would say, "Ooh, you needed a hug," or that kind of
Yeah.
music kind of made you feel like you got a hug from. I think
Yeah.
that's important because of what apologies are. And of course, we're talking about 5 apologies. We're referring to only one of the apologies. And even though we're starting with this one, we could have started at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, but I'll always like to look at the strongest concrete, the strongest sword, the strongest barrier in our
Mm-hmm.
relationships of us taking a look at as for the elements and
Yes.
solutions because we're trying to move people out of survival relationships to
Mm-hmm.
thriving
Right.
relationships. So we got to look at the first blockage, the first stumbling block that
Mm-hmm.
keep us from or keep us in that
Right.
striving mode
Right.
and not move into that thriving mode, that expansion mode where we can build on things.
Right. Now, let me ask you something about this.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the remorse apology,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that it's important to wait until the other person is in a mindset or is in an emotional place to hear the heartfelt, I'm making up a word here, heartfeltness of your apology?
What
Or do you think that it is, when you're feeling it, just go in the moment?
I think it's twofold. Number one, um, the person who's giving the apology or said apology, sometimes they may not be in the mode whatsoever to speak apology,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they don't even know about it. Meaning, I don't feel no sorry whatsoever to say to you. So it could be some time before they move into a remorse apology in the
Mm-hmm.
first place.
Yeah.
Meaning, have a real heartfelt
Mm-hmm.
feeling,
Yeah.
either because a memory comes to
Yeah.
in their mind, it comes back and plays over the mind,
Yeah.
or something through the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes your children will come to you
Yeah.
and say something very innocent to you. I
Mm-hmm.
remember one time I had a fight sometime in the past with my first wife. I remember that, and I was so angry. I was so um, caught up in blind rage. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pay attention to anyone. I was just caught up in that anger. And some of you guys out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you women know exactly what I'm talking about. So don't pretend that you do, because you know you do. In it took my daughter, bless her heart, to walk up to me, and somehow she went from blurriness to a clear figure, meaning herself. And
Mhm.
she said to me loudly, "Dad, Dad, Dad, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this?" It was like she was weighing a tunnel, and her
Mhm.
voice was like in an echo, until it finally hit me. And I came to my realization, moving out of that anger stage, because angerness can blind you from
Yeah.
any kind of compassion and cut you off from the energy of your heart, or they
Mhm.
call this particular chakra. And so she basically spoke life back into me. And when
Mhm.
she did, I was like, oh shoot, what am I doing? I came back to
Yeah.
myself. Oh, what am I doing? From then, I love that my particular daughter right there, because she's always had that kind of sensitive kind of ability.
Mhm.
And all of us have kids in our family. Some of them are like Sly the Family Stone. Some of them we want to burn, and some of them we want to learn from. I love Sly. He's still alive today doing this thing.
Mhm.
So in that situation, it will be hard. Hopefully, answer your question. It'd be very hard for that apology to be said and to be believed from the person
Yeah.
who, in turn, needs it.
Yeah. Kind of like what she said. It was obvious that a
Mm-hmm.
couple of days had passed
Mm-hmm.
when she was feeling this remorse.
Yeah.
You know. So okay.
Yeah, yeah. So on the other side, you could tell that once he came to himself, once he
Or she.
or she came to herself and felt in so many words that, ooh, this wasn't really me, then you can see what happened, right?
Yes.
What can happen?
She felt really bad about it, genuinely, and understood what she had done to hurt him,
Well,
and what her
more
role
than
was.
that, that transfer of
Mhm.
energy,
Yeah.
of compassion,
Mhm.
real empathy can then be transferred, or people
Yes.
would say on the other side, felt by that
Yeah.
person.
And that's
Because
what.
if you're feeling, that's because someone's transporting
Yeah.
it to you,
Yeah.
or putting at you, or shooting at you, whatever it may be,
Yes.
then you could feel it. And then you're going to feel more comfortable accepting that
Mhm.
particular
Yeah.
apology.
And that's why I said she realized how much she had hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her role
Yeah.
in that argument that they had.
Yeah. Now, folks, I would say to you, when it comes to love, unconditional love, when you move into that particular area, um, would say when you understand that love is really an action or an act of your will, the highest calling or the highest element that we're trying to move to when it comes to a thriving relationship, higher vibes, higher frequency, whatever you may want to call it, it would be acting upon doing and saying the right thing, like an apology, even if you don't feel it,
Yeah.
even if you don't feel it. And sometimes, as I was reading that book, it's almost very hard, impossible, as I was talking about in that rage time. Yet, if you understand and then take upon the fact that love is really an act of your will, not
Mhm.
just your feelings, then you can know sometimes going into those particular times through your consciousness of your own brain, even though your feeling might be coming through your heart, that that's a wrong feeling.
Yeah.
I'm not going to really pay attention to it. I'm not going to act like it don't exist,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm going to take the courage, because courage is doing things even when you're afraid. I'll
Yes.
say it again. Real courage is doing things even when you are afraid. That's
Especially
real
when
courage.
you're
Exactly.
afraid.
That's real courage. So
Yes.
then you're going to use what you know is to be the right
Mhm.
thing, that empathy part, that when I was in that same situation and it was happening to me, I didn't feel good about it.
Right. Right.
I felt hurt over it. And so, by the act of your will, if you're connected to that person, you love them as a friend, then you're going to speak it even if you don't feel it.
Mhm.
And that other person is not going to necessarily cue up on it and think that it's very real at the time, because you're both still at a level of wondering if this is real. But if you were the creator of that bad vibe or that negative energy, then you could understand, you can now, through that, be the creator of what?
Of the
the,
apology.
po- with the positive
Yeah.
energy, the
Yeah.
apology,
Yeah.
that apology. And
Yeah.
that can be a good seed in that
Exactly.
other person
Yeah.
to in turn deal with. Then
Mhm.
what's the alternative? Allowing them to continue to be all angry and mad
Yes.
as you are, and when you started it in the first place?
Yes.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah.
So you got the route of heartfelt one that comes around sometimes,
Mhm.
and may has to, like I said, through my daughter or somebody else. And I'm not saying that's the easy route, but it does make it good between the two when that apology comes.
Right.
But then there's that route that's that higher calling, that higher energy is I'm do it by the act of my will I
Mhm.
feel it or not.
Mhm.
What you think
Yeah.
about that?
I agree with that because a lot of times, we have to swallow things.
Oh,
You know,
swallow our pride and not our dignity.
exactly.
Yeah.
And when we allow anger and rage to become the driving force,
Mm-hmm.
we have swallowed our pride, swallowed our dignity, swallowed our sensibility,
Mm-hmm.
our humanity. We have just let everything go to to its own way, and we're not who we truly are and who we were created to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that point we cease to we cease to have any value in ourselves. So yeah, we can't we have to at some point and somehow learn how to reel ourselves in. And sometimes this even requires us to apologize to ourselves,
Mm.
because sometimes that
Mm.
comes out of I hate myself.
Yeah, yeah, that that
Yeah,
lack, that self-esteem.
exactly.
What is it called? That psychological thing called feel like you're a failure, or imposter, the
Yes,
imposter
the
syndrome.
imposter
Yeah,
syndrome.
which is
Yeah.
one of those energies or one of those entities that, or some people say devils or whatever they mean want to call
Hmm.
it, that attack, especially in
Yeah.
certain cultural conditionings. We have the entity like,
Hmm.
because you're this color, then something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Or
Because you're too young, you don't speak right, or things like that.
yeah.
So it attacks you. Yeah.
Exactly. And those things, when that whole thing
Hmm.
about sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never
Not
hurt me.
today.
That was that was the biggest lie of
Oh,
all.
yeah.
Because the things that you say to
Mhm.
kids are still with them when they are adults. And what they do then is they
Mhm.
turn it on to other people
Mhm.
because they don't know what else to do with it.
Yeah.
And that pain that they never got rid of, that nobody ever apologized to them for doing that to them, they still continue to carry it with them, and they carry it into relationships. And and then it just goes from there
Mhm.
until they learn to have that empathy, until they learn that the remorse is actually there, until they learn how to truly be sorry for
All
it,
the
because
all the
it's
reaping and sowing policy is
exactly.
some that which was they done, it
Hmm.
what comes back upon them,
Exactly.
and they wish someone would have apology or someone would have some sorrow for them
Yeah, exactly.
in that particular matter,
And
and it
want it.
does, and it may not happen at all
Right.
because of that.
Right.
So they might find someone that does the same thing to them that they were doing to somebody else.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and that happens a lot because sometimes the victim can become the victimizer. Ooh,
exactly.
boy, that ugly.
And at that point the remorse is not there. The apology is not going to
Yeah,
be
because
there.
that's how my
Uh-huh.
victimizer was to me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do the same thing back in
Yeah,
return.
exactly. Nobody apologized to me, so why should I apologize to
Exactly,
you?
exactly.
And that vicious cycle takes you nowhere.
No,
And it ruins
it
relationships. So we
does.
don't want to be doing the things that are going to ruin relationships. We want to do the things that are going to improve and grow and strengthen relationships. And so that's why, that understanding of being able to say and accept I was wrong, and say it as best you can, and hope that the other person understands that it was coming through as best you can.
This book that I wrote, if you want to go to our Facebook, Taking the Journey
Together.
Together, or you can go to our email. What's our email? Is it coming up there? Email address. You could pick up this book for $13. I'll probably sell it for 10 if you want to. It's very touching. It's a very moving book. Took about 4 or 5 years to put this book together. It's not long. How many pages is it?
I think it's about 50 maybe.
Yeah, I think it would very much help you out. You can't see it because of the light here. No color pages
but
in it.
but
Not anything
50
difficult to read whatsoever at all.
but
I
50
think my
pages in
I
a
think my son actually wrote. No, he didn't read this one
yeah.
because this is not the book he wrote.
No, he read. No, that's not
Did he
the
not?
one.
He wrote the other. He read the other one I wrote. The other
Yes.
one, yeah. My
Yes.
soul says. But anyway, I think those out there who are men who are struggling in this area of apology, struggles in this area of wanting to say you're sorry because you got a lot of rage pinned up, you got a lot of anger pinned up, and you're running by those emotions. But yet at the same time, you know deep down inside, you have some empathy from the standpoint of what it was and how it felt and was done for you. And you really just don't know how to move into the next area of I'm going to go by the act of my will, not your emotions.
Well,
Writing things out as I did, I'm pretty sure this will help you
yeah,
out. I've had this given to some other particular men who have read it, young and old, and it really has touched them. I've said some things that in turn they believed in what they thought and helped them move through their struggle of
hmm
trying to move and be a more apologetic, not a sorry person as people think, but a more apologetic. So you have a little more humility and you understand that your emotional intelligence, being able to articulate and explain how you feel, allows you to be more and have more
yeah,
clarity and have more self-confidence in yourself. How much more confidence you can have in yourself when you know more about yourself
yeah.
and you are able to clearly speak it to others, but more than that, speak it to who? Yourself.
Yes. And one of the things that I have noticed
Mm-hmm.
that goes along with what you just said is that, and something that I have always dealt with is I've always been a writer. I've
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to write. I've always wanted to put together that novel and all of that. But when I was growing up as a small child, I did not see people who looked like me who were writing. And
Mm-hmm.
the same situation with this.
Mm-hmm.
Most men do not put their feelings and their expressions out like that, especially on paper.
Who was a great writer who did?
Uh, 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 um,
You ought to be ashamed.
Baldwin.
Yes,
Baldwin
definitely,
did it
definitely,
constantly, not only on paper and in books, but he did it in speech out in the public.
exactly. Who's
You
another
know,
one that
but
also did it in
hold,
plays?
hold, hold, hold
Hold
on,
on,
hold
no,
on.
no, no, no,
Okay,
no. Who's another one
and
that did it in plays?
uh, um, August Wilson.
Yeah, August Wilson,
Yeah,
very good
yeah.
at writing emotions in play, not
Oh,
only for
absolutely.
himself, but for many different ages
Mm-hmm.
and territorial, culturally wise African American males, whether it's up south
Yeah,
or down north,
up
and women
up
too.
south.
I mean, well, you mean, what can I say? Malcolm X said that when it comes to the Mason Dixon line of
Ev-
South, it's on
every,
the other side of
every,
the border of Canada.
exactly, everything south of
Canada
Canada is
is down,
south.
down
Yeah,
south.
he was
But
definitely.
he did very good. There's
Yeah.
that one that's coming out with Denzel Washington just getting ready to do a play by him
Another one. What
called The
is
Piano
the
Man.
piano player?
Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
see that.
yeah.
I got it
Oh,
on my computer. We got to watch that.
I read the book.
Oh, you did?
I read
Oh, you
the
got to see it
well, I
too.
read, the book, the play. I've read it.
What a
It's
twist in that.
amazing.
What in
It's
that
oh
twist? And
yeah,
you
oh
won't
yeah.
believe it to the end.
It's
But the family drama that comes out of that is unreal.
unreal,
Unreal.
unreal.
But going back to you were saying, okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and well, that's okay.
Mhm.
All I was saying, because
I
that
was just
that
expressing myself.
and that's fine.
Oh, thank you.
That's what you're supposed
Oh,
to do.
thank you.
You're welcome. So, but anyway,
We're recording this too, but because that don't happen all the time. But anyway, go ahead.
anyway, what I was saying
Hmm.
was, the fact that most men have not been given the okay to
Hmm.
express their feelings and say what they think about
Oh,
it.
until she says my feelings, and therefore, repeat my feelings to me too. What I just said. Now it's okay.
Okay, but it's not even necessarily she, because sometimes it's he.
Yeah,
And
that's
the
right. Other
he
males don't.
being
Yeah,
the guys that you hang around with
yeah,
that say you're soft, that you're weak, and things
yeah.
like that,
That's true.
and tear you down that way.
Hmm. Unless we're
So
real drunk. I mean, when we're time my boys, our girl, we were drunk. We talked a lot of shit
well
to
then
one
at that
another,
at
our
that point,
emotion to one another,
but it
crying and tears and our beer and stuff.
yeah,
And my woman did this, my woman did.
but it
Oh, sometimes when we smoked, oh,
mhm.
I forgot. I didn't inhale, but
But when with taking all that into
hmm
consideration, when all is said and done, you can deny it, and most everybody will probably go
most
along with it.
let me say to you, sister, most of the time close brothers would do that. What doesn't happen is we don't necessarily speak that at all to what males. I mean, to females. Females.
Yeah,
Remember the one Tyler Perry did?
yeah,
Why did I got married? No, no.
whatever those
What that
were.
was? Remember how the campfire times when they were up in the
Yeah,
mountains and we're doing that talking about their
yeah,
emotions with one another.
yeah.
I remember going to that movie more than once with more than one particular female. And them females were on the screen with their heads close as
Mhm.
could be, because that's the first time they heard
Yeah.
that kind of conversation where males were actually
Yeah.
speaking out loud how they feel on the big screen. He
Mhm.
did do a good job capturing that. I don't know how much more he's doing a good job in, but he did a good job in capturing that.
Yeah.
So most females
Yeah.
have not heard males speak how they really
Exactly.
feel.
Exactly.
And we need to do that more in the community. We need to have more townhouse, not just talking about sports. Nothing wrong with that, folks. Don't only say anything about that. Nothing wrong about talking about politics, but we need to talk about our real feelings, how we feel about women, how we feel about children, how we feel about life, how we feel like as men,
Mhm.
black men too. We need to
Yeah.
have more times
Yeah.
of doing that. Hopefully on this network, we'll be talking about that more to be able to do it. And we need to do that across our generations. I was trying to put together a show in Atlanta. Remember, it was between me being an
Right.
older male and another millennium, and then someone who was the Z generation, and find out how we interpret and look at life differently. We
Mhm.
need to have those kind of conversations openly with one another,
Yeah.
so we can do exactly what you say. When you see someone that looks like you, then it is able for you to feel comfortable with you
Mhm.
and build your self-confidence, so you don't get in that, stay in that mode that only I'm the only one thinking this way
Right.
and nobody else is really thinking that way.
Right.
And then we don't get caught into the stereotypes that say this is how you should only think this way.
Mhm. Yes. And so, that's another reason why I was just kind of saying that
Mhm.
this book is good, because it um lets other males know that they're not in this world by themselves,
Yeah.
and that they're not on this island with their feelings, that other men have that too. And I have no compunction about um, expressing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
a big word, compunction.
Yeah. Wow.
Function. What is your function? Not
I
telling my
used to love
feelings or taking apart.
I used to love conjunction
Junction.
junction.
Okay, see, I was wrong because you're an English teacher, so you'll do that. So you remember that. I wouldn't,
I thought
but I
that.
watched it. What
Uh,
was that? Sesame Street, wasn't it?
no, that was Schoolhouse Rock.
Oh, school. I think it's still on. Come to
It
think of it,
is.
that's what I thought. I
Yeah.
think it is still on. If I
I don't
remember.
know if it's on YouTube or what, but I know I have some students that talk about it.
Oh, they do.
They were talking about it just about a week ago.
And that's something. Well, hey, we are getting down to time. We got to get ready to give it over to our engineer in the background. Hey, we're talking
we're
about
not
five.
done.
No, we're not. 5 types of sorries or apologies. We started with a remorse apology. Try that remote
Remorse.
remorse apology in your life. Hard thing to do.
And when you
No
feel
doubt
it,
about it,
don't
but
be
try it.
afraid to say,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
sorry
sorry.
from your heart.
Exactly. All right. From there, next time, to hear from us next time, peace, love, and hey, don't forget, make sure that you're taking that journey together. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer. It's all yours.
like that.